Welcome to the Voice of Retail. I'm your host, Michael LeBlanc. This podcast is brought to you in conjunction with Retail Council of Canada. Welcome to a special NRF Big Show 2022 bonus episode of the podcast, one of a series of exclusive interviews produced to support the show, the vendors, and the industry thought leaders heading into the new year. These bonus episodes all follow a similar format. First, we learn about my guest and the company they work for and what they're talking about to retailers at the big show this year. Second, based on their experience, knowledge, and conversations with retail clients, 2 starts and 1-stop advice for retailers listening. And last but not least, where you can go to learn more. All right, let's jump right in. Melissa, welcome to the Voice of Retail podcast. How are you doing this afternoon?
I'm great. How about yourself?
I'm very well. Where am I finding you today? I think you guys are based out in San Francisco. Is that where I'm finding you today?
That's correct. San Francisco, about 70 degrees, sunny and nice, so I can't complain.
Nice. Well, it is basically sunny here. We got that on you, but it is a bit chilly here today. It's a bit chilly, lots of snow. I'm here in Toronto. So once again, thanks for joining me. It's great to hear your voice. And it's the second time Zipline's been on the podcast. So I'm really excited to chat with you, see what's happening. There's so much going on, particularly so much going on in your space.
Totally.
About, this frontline communication and comms and improving all that great stuff. So I'm keen to kind of dig in. Why don't we start at the beginning? Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do at Zipline.
Great. So I am Melissa, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Zipline. And I'm a little bit of an uncommon co-founder in the sense that I actually started in retail and worked in retail for over a decade. I know a lot of us, worked sometimes in retail, in high school, college, etc. But my experience in retail is actually what prompted me to leave retail and start this company.
Was retail for you, retail sometimes been described as the accidental career. Was it accidental for you? Is it something like many just kind of get you into the market, or did you have find a bit more of a passion for it?
It's funny because I actually earlier in my career, I actually focused on B2B PR. So it was kind of boring. And so I intentionally went more into retail because there's something about the way that a retail brand is able to bring a customer's aspirations and like the person that they want to be to life. And I think the best way of explaining it is like when you go into Lululemon or when you go into Pottery Barn, I believe it's not just about buying that product, but you're trying to become that person. And in a way, that brand helps you be the person that you want to become.
It's such an interesting discussion. Sorry, I cut you off there. It's interesting because it's, retailers need to more and more, it feels like, make a very important choice around this spectrum of efficiency and experience and whatever that means. Like someone settling in the middle is probably just not going to be good enough anymore. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think especially after the past couple of years of COVID, unfortunately, I think retailers will have to do both, right? Yeah. I think you're going to have to be efficient in how you use physical locations to get product to customers' hands, right? In less time. And also, you're going to have to use that store as a place of experience, connection, and knowledge. When you look at the retail landscape of a lot of different retail companies trying different things, essentially everyone's trying to deliver finally the seamless customer journey and omni-channel experience, but approaching it in a lot of different ways. But ultimately, it's around customer engagement, right?
Yeah.
Stickiness, winning customers' hearts, minds, and ultimately wallet, which means also meeting them where they're at.
All right. Well, tell me about your company. What does it do? What makes it different? And tell me all about Zipline.
Yeah. So my company, Zipline, essentially was founded because, like I said earlier in my career in retail, it was actually really hard to get stores to do the thing. So I worked at a top Fortune 50 retailer, and as we're moving merchandise, as we're doing different product assortments, as we were making decisions around health and safety and customer service standards, it actually was really hard to get stores to do these things in a timely way. And I'd walk into stores. I worked in headquarters. I worked in communications and operations. Walk into stores, ask people, hey, we sent this late breaking news, super important to the business. We're doing this pullback. How come you didn't do the thing? And stores would always say, too much information in too many different places. I didn't know the priority. It's a little bit chaotic. Someone else responsible for that. I didn't know that it mattered. Didn't know what good looked like. And, through discussions, I would, focus actually exclusively on this for 10 years. So in the discussions, it often surfaced that it's not that the stores didn't want to do the thing, right? It's not that associates want to do a bad job or are acting from like an ill intent. It's because we as a company were not setting them up for success, right? We weren't helping them make it easy for work. We weren't automating. There were just so many manual things that were happening. There were lots of stickies in back rooms, lots of calendars, lots of PDFs, lots of hyperlinks, like crazy amounts of information. Plus, we didn't have ways to really engage teams behind what the brand was doing, why it mattered, why a new brand relaunch of a specific sneaker was, market moving and revolutionary, and why people should be proud to work for a company that was making such great strides in innovation. And so, after 10 years of specifically focusing on like, how can we get stores to execute better? How can we get them to feel engaged behind the brand and be enrolled in what we're doing? I left because I couldn't find a good solution and created Zipline based off of the premise that there needs to be a better platform and solution that really enables field teams to do their jobs easier.
Well, I know of what you speak. A couple of examples. I was with a telecom company here in Canada, and we were at a conference, and we had a similar issue with the call center, help center, and someone very cleverly calculated that we were basically sending out the equivalent of To Kill a Mockingbird each week to every associate. And, and they're like, they'd hold the book up. Is it any wonder, and then they calculated there's like some 3,000 different permutations and combination of programs. So, and then on the other side, I helped run marketing for Pandora Jewelry. So I felt I was in your position. I was head of marketing and just so many drop, all these drops that all had a flow of execution. And they all kind of seemed equally important. Of course, they weren't. And how did you, seamlessly communicate that? And I guess the third part, and I want to get your feedback because you're now on the front lines from a different context. You're talking to the leaders of the organizations. And even pre-COVID, retailers were saying, listen, it's getting harder and harder to drive that incremental footstep into the store. So what can we do? Let's turn our minds to making sure that who does come in the store, walks out with as big a basket as we can manage and make sure that conversion rates go up. Is that a key driver? Like, what do you and how do you, once you get set up with any of your clients, how do you measure success?
Yeah. So I think when I really look at, and this kind of touches at the full circle of those examples you brought, and I actually have, when you mentioned being, the head of marketing for Pandora, I have a lot of empathy, right? You're trying to move your business and move the needle. You're sending things down to stores. You're not sure if they're getting done. The industry average, just so that you have peace of mind now, is actually 29%.
Okay, I was better than that. Okay, I was
right. Exactly. Right.
So good. Yeah.
So people feel a little bit better when they hear that industry average. But what I found in looking at solutions is, Task helped people keep track of the things, but it was very based off of hours and labor, and it was very stiff. And it didn't show people, it wasn't inspirational, right? It is like reading Moby Dick versus Kill a Mockingbird, right? I think, a piece that's missing too is an engagement aspect, right? So when you
not just instructions, but actually
not just instructions.
Yeah. And how does your tool engage? Like, what does it do? Take me, pop open the hood a little bit and tell me how it engages the associates. So, I mean, from a communication perspective, we're bringing the best of multimedia abilities into Zipline, right? So it's not just about the written word, like To Kill a Mockingbird, but it's about showing inline videos, being very image rich. It's very branded to look and feel like the brand. So an associate feels part of this team. And then it's also connecting people, both from, in-store to headquarters, as well as people to other stores, right? So it's creating that community and groundswell, and is the foundation for coaching and what good looks like from a customer interaction perspective. That's neat.
Right.
Now, what brought us together today on the microphone is the NRF show, the big show in New York City. But what were you talking about this year that was, say, different, or what when you had those conversations? What was it that about your product or some kind of trend that you said, you really have to know this? If you're just stopping by the booth, you got to know this about our product or this thing that we're seeing in the market. Yeah.
So I say both what's in the market and how we support. So one, I think agility is the new must-have, right? Like we're going to be making a lot of decisions in the next couple of years, and to be able to move fast, move your teams, do it agilely and accurately, and be able to read the results of that is going to be essential, right?
Real time, right? Real time. Let's get to the second part, the fun part. So this is 2 starts and 1 stop advice. So with all your experience and both on the business side and on the vendor side and all the conversations you have for the listeners, 2 pieces of advice, things they should start doing, and 1 thing they maybe should stop doing. Maybe it's not working as well, or it's not going to work anymore. What do you think?
So I would say start making sure that, based off of the agility comment, that everyone's aligning teams behind common goals and that the communication is really clear and segmented to each, I guess, role and responsibility of the organization. It will help people move faster, right? It'll help people understand their role and the impact they're having in the company's success. I think the second start is brands really need to start engaging their store teams, right? You and I talked about it earlier on, but the great resignation is real. Retail is a really hard and unforgiving job. A lot of times brands are doing so much in the headquarters space for the store teams, but there's a disconnect. So really enroll your teams behind what you're doing from a brand standpoint and engage them in how the brand is making a difference.
Do you think it is harder now? I mean, it used to be the case where store support, head office, whatever you wanted, would be in the trenches in one way, shape, or another with the folks in the store. Unfortunately, thanks to COVID, many of the folks in store support are working from home, but the store associates are still in the store. I've talked to executives who've talked about this cultural schism, that it makes it even harder now because, well, yeah, you're in your home office telling me to do all these things. Any thoughts on that? Are you seeing that, and any recommendations you have?
I feel like that divide actually has existed for a really long time, right? It's a lot of been like us versus them in terms of like the ivory tower and the field, right? But I think that COVID has accentuated that dynamic if it exists within a brand, right? I do have to say, I know a lot of retailers too that were early on in COVID, like from a headquarters perspective, out in stores, visiting, rallying, like engaging teams. I think it really has depended on the brand, but COVID has really shown a spotlight into areas of opportunities for everyone. So,
so great, 2 great starts. What's your 1 stop?
It's a little bit related to, I guess, what we're talking about and having a pulse, but, companies can no longer not listen to employees, right? Or not get a pulse from what employees are feeling from a culture perspective, but also what they're hearing from customers on the ground, right? So how do you create that fast feedback loop of insight to help the company be healthier overall, both from a top line perspective, but also from a great place to work perspective?
That's an interesting idea, that kind of positive loop. So your tool allows the associates and the store managers and the DMs or whoever to kind of feedback that nice loop so that it, whether it's course correction or just insight, right? Here's what customers are thinking these days, right?
That's correct.
So let's talk about, last question for you. Not every tool is made for every retailer in terms of size or scale or scope. Who are you good for? So is it, do you count number of stores or number of associates? Where's a good fit for you in terms of the listeners and the size of their business?
Yeah, so I would say we're the best fit for companies looking to optimize execution, right? Like the performance of stores and have more engaged store teams. It can range everywhere from our smallest customers around 7 stores. Our largest is 10,000.
That's a big range.
It's a really big range. But really, when you look, we're the communication foundation for getting things done, right? So I think, we're the best fit when people are looking for what's the yellow brick road, what's the path for, what 70 other brands have done to get to about 90% execution. What's that golden path to get us there?
Right on. Well, that's a good segue into my last question, which was, how do people get in touch? Where do they go to learn more? And tell us about that.
Great. Well, anyone can always visit our website. It's getzipline.com. And, there people can learn more about Zipline's platform, read case studies. We're actually going to be having an NRF FOMO event soon. So if you missed out on NRF because you couldn't fly or had other obligations, you could stop on by, and we're going to be having some roundtables, vendor discussions, a store tour. So it's a good way to get in touch with us.
No, that's fine. And are you a LinkedIn person? What about yourself? How do you get in touch with you if you want to connect and learn more?
LinkedIn for sure. So it's Melissa, Wong, and then Zipline.
Well, Melissa, thanks so much for being my guest on The Voice of Retail. It's great to connect, and certainly it's just such an important part. Stores, I think, are having a renaissance and will have a renaissance of priority and importance, and this integration, omnichannel, none of which is any easier for the associates to manage so many things. So I think tools like yours are just vital to make it all work together. So thanks for taking the time to join me on The Voice of Retail.
Thanks so much for having me. And also thanks for being a voice in retail, right? It's very appreciated, especially during this time.
Thanks for tuning into this special episode of The Voice of Retail. If you haven't already, be sure and click and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform so new episodes will land automatically twice a week. And check out my other retail industry media properties, the Remarkable Retail Podcast, Conversations with Commerce Next Podcast, and the Food Professor Podcast with Dr. Sylvain Charlevoix. Last but not least, if you're into barbecue, check out my all-new YouTube barbecue show, Last Request Barbecue, with new episodes each and every week. I'm your host, Michael LeBlanc, president of Michael LeBlanc Company and Maven Media. And if you're looking for more content or want to chat, follow me on LinkedIn or visit my website at michaelleblanc.co. Have a safe week, everyone.